What's going on, everyone? It's Nina Infinity. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Ezra Miller again. I mean, you would think that I would have had enough, but as someone who's obsessed with details, I had to know more. And I was having this discussion last night, actually, with Adam Krigler on Breaking the Narrative. And I brought up the fact that there's been like literally no updates about Ezra Miller at all. It's been like radio silence from the media. And lo and behold, today we get some updates. And I've always been a fan of the saying that goes, the devil is in the details. So whenever I get involved in a story, I'd like to read about all the details, and I like to kind of discover what is actually going on, because usually the truth falls somewhere in the middle. So first of all, I want to give a big shout out to Clifton Duncan, Mr. Clifton Duncan, who was also on Breaking the Narrative a couple weeks ago. He's the one that first tweeted this out this morning, saying this is disturbing on multiple levels. He's not kidding. He's not kidding, because this article by Business Insider has some crazy details about what's going on with Ezra Miller. Some more details coming out from friends, from victims, and a lot of stuff. So let's get into it. We're going to cover this. Ezra Miller's unraveling, friends concerned as the Flash actor travels the U.S. in body armor and faces claims of running a cult in Iceland. Let me preface this by saying that I've done multiple videos on Ezra Miller's history, beginning with basically his rise to stardom from his childhood, fast forward to today kind of thing. And I've kind of chronicled all of his problems with the law and things like that in the previous videos. There's a lot of stuff being said here that needs to be taken with a grain of salt. So let's get into this. It was a May morning in Los Angeles, and Sarah Jumping Eagle was desperate to get her 18-year-old daughter away from Ezra Miller. In the past 5 months, Jumping Eagle said Miller had left bruises on her daughter Tokata Iron Eyes' arms and cheeks, restricted access to her phone, and verbally abused her. Tokata's parents had welcomed Miller into their lives when Tokata was just 12 years old. Miller had taken a liking to the preteen, flying her to London to the premiere of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, in which they starred, and encouraged Tokata's musical aspirations. But the Miller that Tokata's parents once knew was growing more unpredictable and volatile by the day. When Jumping Eagle learned that Miller and Tokata were in LA, she and her husband Chase Iron Eyes jumped on a plane to save their daughter. They begged Tokata to stay away from Miller, who responded by calling an Uber and demanded Tokata to get in. In a text message to Insider, Tokata said she asked Miller to call her Uber. When Jumping Eagle reached into the back of the car to talk to her daughter, Miller slammed the door on Jumping Eagle's arms so hard that she had to be treated at an urgent care clinic, according to Jumping Eagle and medical report viewed by Insider. Ezra Miller, stop assaulting me, Jumping Eagle screamed. The Uber sped off with Tokata inside. Jumping Eagle said she didn't know if she would ever see her daughter again. I have no way to find them, she remembers thinking. She said the encounter motivated her and her husband to sound the alarm about Miller, who they say has a pattern of targeting and grooming vulnerable young people. Our primary concern is the safety of our daughter, Jumping Eagle said. We want other people to be warned. For years, Miller has been hailed as a hero of the new Hollywood. The actor first caught the attention of critics in 2011. We need to talk about Kevin. And apparently he wasn't acting very much. And 2012's The Perks of Being a Wallflower, when Miller came out as a queer that year, telling the Daily Beast, "I'm open to love wherever it can be found," fans had found their icon. With her dark, wavy locks and a thorough bone structure, Miller was fearless in a world of cookie-cutter celebrities. They walked the red carpet in pinstripe skirt suit with rhinestone bustier and eschewed city life for their Vermont farm when they raised goats and sang to the caterpillars. By the time they appeared in 2016, blockbuster Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, making them the first out actor to appear as a major film superhero playing the Flash, they seemed poised for next level stardom. I'm going to pause right here and say that it's so annoying to read articles that use the they them pronoun, because it just feels so grammatically incorrect. I always have to take a double take to read these articles. But in the past 2 years, Miller, 29, has gone from one of Hollywood's most promising actors to one of its biggest liabilities. In April 2020, Miller was filmed choking a fan in Iceland. We've all seen that video. This spring, they were arrested twice in Hawaii. We know all this. First on charges of disorderly conduct and harassment, and then on allegations of second-degree assault. In June, a German woman told Variety that Miller hurled insults at her and refused to leave her apartment earlier that year. That month, Rolling Stone published an article about how Miller was hosting a mother and her children at the actor's Vermont home. A source told Rolling Stone that the home was littered with guns and that one of the children, a 1-year-old, put a loose bullet in her mouth. Again, I've covered all of this in previous videos. In June, Tokata's parents obtained a temporary protection order demanding Miller stay away from their child. In tribal court documents, the parents said that the actor had been grooming Tokata for 6 years and was physically and emotionally abusive. Tokata told Insider that these allegations were a disgusting and irresponsible smear campaign against Miller, and that Miller, in multiple cases, has done the right thing and stood in protection of others. Again, it's important to know that Tokata to this day has not said a bad word about Ezra Miller. A week after Tokata's parents obtained their protection order, a Massachusetts mother of a 12-year-old was granted a temporary harassment protection order against Miller, who she said showed an inappropriate interest in her child. Insider has spoken with 14 people. Okay, so here is when we get into some of the new stuff that's coming out. Insider has spoken with 14 people who had recent interactions with Miller in which the actor exhibited frightening emotional outbursts, carried firearms, or left them feeling unsafe. Some people said Miller sought out impressionable young women and non-binary people whom they could isolate from their families and control. In some cases, Miller had sexual relations with these people. In 2020, during a roughly 2-month stint in Iceland where Miller walked the streets barefoot, rumors spread that the movie star was running a cult out of an Airbnb. That's alarming. Over the past 6 months, the actor has been driving around the U.S. carrying at least one gun and wearing a bulletproof vest, paranoid about being followed by the FBI and the KKK. People told Insider. Tokata said the vest was a fashionable safety measure in response to actual attacks and received death threats. In January, Miller posted a video threatening to kill KKK members. Several people close to Miller say that they're worried about the actor's mental state and are concerned Miller has lost touch with reality. You don't say. You don't say. Whether because the pressure of fame have broken them or because no one is willing to check their behavior, many of the people who spoke with Insider asked to remain anonymous, fearing retaliation from the star. Look, I've talked about this in the earlier videos. Seems like Ezra Miller was a victim of something that's very prevalent in Hollywood and has become that very thing that happened to him. It's a perpetual thing, and it's awful to see. I think that Ezra has been enabled because of their fame, their wealth, their earning potential, their whiteness. That's random. And their beauty. A longtime friend of Miller's told Insiders, it's really hard to intervene when someone has as many resources as Ezra, they added. When you're famous, people are less likely to say no to you. I think that those things can be really dangerous. Those close to Miller said executives at Warner Bros., the studio behind the Fantastic Beasts franchise and the DC Extended Universe in which the Flash character has appeared, as well as Miller's parents, seem to have done little to get them help. Warner Bros. Did not respond to requests for comments. Of course they wouldn't. Of course they wouldn't. They want this story gone. They do not want people to be talking about Ezra Miller with the Flash, the movie, hanging in the balance. They've had to deal with a lot of BS when it comes to Aquaman 2 star Amber Heard and now Ezra Miller, they've got a lot to deal with. So of course they're not going to make a comment. That's not surprising. People in Ezra's life are really grieving the person they've lost, the longtime family friend said, because I don't think that person is coming back. That's quite a statement. Another longtime family friend of Miller appeared to have a level of emotional intelligence uncommon for their age. They were able to connect with people, the person said. On the set of Asking for It, a feminist thriller filmed in Oklahoma in the fall of 2019, Miller often wore long robes, a cape, and a unicorn head despite scorching temperatures, crew members said. The ensemble was not part of Miller's on-screen wardrobe. Many people on the set commented on Miller's pungent body odor, gross. And one production staffer told Insider that Miller appeared mentally scattered. It was kind of startling, the production staffer said, adding that Miller seemed to be just kind of floating from place to place, room to room. A few months later, while filming the TV miniseries The Stand, Miller incessantly screeched, spit, and interrupted the director by screaming during filming. A second person said Miller would yell erratically on the set to get a reaction. At one point, just before the camera started rolling, Armstrong said Miller screamed out an offensive joke. It was something to the effect of, a Jew, a black man, and a gay man walk into a bar, and the bartender said, "Hey, what are you doing here? You don't belong here," Armstrong recalled. Armstrong said that when he complained about Miller's behavior, the person in charge of the extra told him that Miller was method acting because their character, Trash Can Man, was mentally unstable. I don't think he was method acting. I think that's Ezra Miller. But a former associate of Miller said things got so bad that production called Miller's legal counsel and manager because people on set were not feeling safe. It was disgusting and horribly unprofessional, Armstrong said of Miller's behavior, adding that anyone else would have been escorted off the set immediately. See, and then this is the interesting part to me with regards to method acting, because I think a lot of times people who do practice method acting, if they are victims of abuse or have, struggled with mental illness, as Ezra Miller has, I think they're very vulnerable to, blur the lines between method acting and actually becoming that person. And I think Ezra Miller has done that so many times now that, again, the lines of reality have been completely blurred for him. Like, this guy is just off his rocker. In February 2020, Miller traveled to London to film Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, in which they play the character Credence Barebone. When filming for the Harry Potter spin-off halted because of COVID-19, Miller headed to Iceland. Miller's presence was poorly received by some Icelanders who said the actor was aggressive and emitted a putrid stench. Oh, gross. The actor, who rarely changed out of the same loosely fitted bohemian clothing, strolled the frigid streets of Reykjavik barefoot, revealing long pointy toenails and what looked like an infected gash on one foot. Gross. What the heck? One person recalled seeing Miller walking around mumbling. Miller traveled everywhere with their personal assistant and spiritual advisor, Jasper Young Bear, who told locals he cut off at least one of his own fingers during a ritual ceremony. That guy seems very, very hinged, doesn't he? Young Bear didn't respond to a request for comment. Why would he? The actor used an art house movie theater, Bioparadis, as a sort of clubhouse, with Miller occasionally burning sage to cleanse the premises of bad spirits, staffers told Insiders. For most of their time in Iceland, Miller rented a sprawling modern Airbnb in Reykjavik. They filled the home with a menagerie of Icelandic artists, expat, and spiritual confidants, whom they encouraged to stay there, even though many had their own homes in Reykjavik. One woman who visited the house for a day in March 2020 recalled several mattresses spread out on the floor and compared the house to a commune. She was struck by how enamored guests seemed to be of Miller, hanging on their every word and seeming unfazed by Miller's mood swings. I felt like I was hypnotized. Between Miller's makeshift commune, their monologues on spirituality, and their emotional outbursts, rumors began to circulate in Reykjavik that the star was running a cult. It sure sounds that way. Miller held court daily at the Airbnb. They often alluded to possessing supernatural powers, two people said, and instructed guests to participate in group meditations led by Young Bear. They spoke at length about the fate and the importance of social justice for marginalized groups. Many of the people who became involved with Miller said they believed in the issues Miller cared about, but Miller often took things too far. Two people said Miller's celebrity status and power made them hesitant to go against the actor, in part because of Miller's generosity. Miller insisted on paying for their friends' food, lodgings, and weed. Like, this guy's going around like handing out weed like nobody's business. Of course people are going to say no, nothing. A musician who recorded with Miller in Iceland said the actor handed him 200,000 krona, roughly equivalent to $1,500 for his birthday. The musician said that the more time he spent with Miller, the more he behaved like them and believed in their spiritual powers. Nobody ever was kind of allowed to disagree with Ezra, recalled a young woman who said she had a brief sexual relationship with Miller in Iceland when she was 18. Their reality printed everybody else's reality. There was no room for anybody else's opinion or feelings. Some guests said that they felt frightened during Miller's mood swings. A 23-year-old woman who visited the house twice said she witnessed Miller fly into a rage when a group of friends tried to pick which song to play over the sound system. That doesn't sound like something somebody should go into a rage over, but if you have mental illness or you're bipolar, that's seems like an average day. She said Miller swore and screamed at them to leave the house, which the actor referred to as a sanctuary. They snapped from being a friendly host to this really angry person, she said. The 23-year-old said Miller wouldn't allow the offending parties to speak or explain themselves. The woman who visited the house in March said that she tried to use her phone in Miller's presence. Miller got angry. Ezra would be like, "Hey, I'm talking to you. Why are you on your phone?" she said. At another point, Miller ushered the woman and her friend into a room and confronted them about wanting to leave the house. "You don't like my hospitality," Miller told them, adding that they could read the pair's minds. The woman said she remembers feeling intimidated and trapped. The woman eventually sneaked a text to a family member asking them to pick her up. She said that leaving the house felt like making an escape. I was a bit traumatized for a while, she said. It was one of the weirdest days I've ever experienced. Miller's behavior stayed largely under wraps until April 1st, 2020, when the actor was filmed choking a woman. And we know about all of that. That month, Miller rented out parts of the Northern Ireland's hotel, to record music. Several local musicians were invited to the hotel, including a young woman from Iceland who was 18 at the time. The musicians spent their first day at the hotel reciting pagan chants, smoking weed, and relaxing in the hot tub, they recalled. Later that night, Miller, the young woman, and another woman had a threesome, she said. Okay. My ego was thriving, recalled the young woman, who said she was really lost at the time and addicted to alcohol and drugs. After that, Ezra basically said, "My room is your room. This is now where you're going to stay." And I was like, cool. The young woman said that she stayed at the hotel for 6 days. What started off as a thrilling experience, she said, deteriorated into one of the most traumatic weeks of her life. She said Miller exhibited mood swings that left her tearful and confused. At one moment, they would look at me in the eye and be like, "I love you," and be this really nice, beautiful person, she said. And then the next minute, she continued, they would tell me that I was effing disgusting. There was a lot of psychological abuse, the young woman said. Sounds like it. Once the young woman mixed up the Spanish words for 6 and 7, realizing her mistake, she laughed and leaned on Miller affectionately. She said Miller told her to get the F off me and called the error disgusting. Her bandmate, who witnessed the interaction, said he was shocked by Miller's response. Another time, the woman said she was stretching a communal area when Miller approached and asked whether she was practicing yoga. The two began discussing yoga. Then Miller started screaming. Ezra was like, "You don't know anything about yoga," she recalled. This hostile demon took over. That's an interesting choice of words right there. In both cases, the young woman said Miller made her feel ashamed for being white. The young woman said that while at the hotel, she had sex with Miller 3 times and communicated sparsely with friends and family. The actor became fixated on her breeding capabilities, she said, and worshipped her perfect womb by talking to it, looking at it, hugging it, and laying their head on her stomach. Oh my God, he sounds so weird. If this is all true, this is so weird. Miller, she said, believed her loved ones were trying to hold her back and encourage her to leave her life behind for more prosperous future. If this is true, again, this is very cult-like behavior. That's what cults do. And psychopaths try to make you disassociate with friends and family so that you can be vulnerable. She remembers thinking Miller was her ticket to success. See, this is all by her own doing, like people have choices and they make them. Ezra was super manipulative. They kind of had us all under their finger, she said. They were able to twist and pull everything that I thought I knew about the world. After 6 days, Miller decided to return to Reykjavik. Eager to get home, the young woman accepted the ride from the actor and their entourage. When she returned to her apartment, her roommate, who had heard the rumors about Miller, had grown worried when the woman stopped responding to texts, handed her a stack of literature about cults. The documents detailed how cult leaders promise spiritual awakening or material goods or to manipulate targets, and how they isolate their followers by cutting them off from friends and family, the roommate recalled. It was the exact same thing that I was in with Ezra, the young woman said, and that really scared me. The woman said she was terrified of seeing Miller again, so much so that she fled her apartment until Miller left the country 10 days later. Her experience with Miller left lasting scars. It was only 6 days, but it honestly felt way, way longer, she said. I remember feeling like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to recover from this. As Miller's behavior became more alarming in Iceland, Tokata Iron Eyes was working through her first semester at college. In December 2017, Miller flew Tokata, then 14, and devoted Harry Potter fan, and other Standing Rock members to London to visit the set of Fantastic Beasts tribal court documents say. The documents said that Miller, who was 25 at the time, attempted to sleep in the same bed as Tokata, but was stopped by a tribal member. Tokata's parents said that they didn't learn about this incident until earlier this year, and Tokata said it never happened. In January 2020, when Tokata was 16, she enrolled at Bard College at Simon's Rock, less than 2-hour drive from Miller's Vermont farm. She dropped out in December 2021 and asked a family friend, Chief Bearcross, to let her stay at his home in South Dakota for a few days. When she arrived, the chief was surprised to find she had brought 4 other people, including a man in his 50s named Whitney Suiters, who was carrying firearms, and Miller. During the group's 4-day stay, Miller unexpectedly drew a gun, ranted about being followed by the FBI, and refused to let Tokata out of their sight. Said Bearcross and another member of the household who asked to remain anonymous. There's the picture of Miller with the gun, and this guy doesn't seem very alarmed by it, but hey, whatever, it's a picture. One cold night, the household member said she saw Miller having sex with Tokata on a bed outside. It was dark and there's a yard light. She said Bearcross said the household member told him about this incident immediately after it happened. Tokata told Insider this was so very false, again denying allegations. The group left the reservation on New Year's Day, embarking on a road trip to Los Angeles. At his daughter's request, Iron Eyes went with them as far as Oakland. This is when I was able to see some of Ezra's deranged behavior, Iron Eyes said. On the trip, he said that Miller claimed that they were an incarnation of Jesus Christ, said Tokata was Miller's mother in a past life, and at one point brandished a gun in a state park. Tokata's parents pointed to these incidents in a protection order as examples of violence and psychological manipulation. Later that month, Miller returned to Vermont farm with Tokata in tow. On January 29th, Miller and their house guests called Tokata's parents to tell them Tokata was incapacitated after having taken LSD 4 days prior. Iron Eyes and Jumping Eagle flew to Vermont the next day. When they arrived, they said Tokata was out of it and incoherent, screaming so relentlessly that she had lost her voice for several days. She had bruises on her arms and left cheek, and said that she didn't have her phone or ID. Another person at the farm told Tokata's parents that the bruising occurred when Miller pinned Tokata on the ground and screamed at her for failing to respond to a question, the protection order said. Tokata told insiders that she took a microdose of LSD and that the bruises were a result of self-harm she attributed to a close friend's death. She added that some of the bruises may also have occurred when her parents violently dragged her out of Miller's house. Jumping Eagle said Tokata was not dragged at any point. Iron Eyes and Jumping Eagle took their daughter back to Pine Ridge reservation in South Dakota. As they were leaving, Miller texted them, offering to get Tokata around the clock psychiatric care if they brought her back to the farm. Jumping Eagle said that in hindsight, she believed Miller was trying to control everything and trying to keep Tokata in their grasp. After Tokata's overdose, she stayed with her parents for about 3 weeks, during which they got her a new phone, driver's license, and bank card. Her parents discussing filing assault charges and requesting a restraining order against Miller, but Tokata said if they did, she would never talk to them again. It was a rock and a hard place, Jumping Eagle said, and we didn't know the extent of Ezra's manipulation of Tokata. I guess we were naive. You can say that again, or you had ulterior motives, as I've explained in other videos. Tokata told Insider that while she was in South Dakota, her parents treated her like a prisoner and forced her to participate in ceremonies with a medicine man who made her inhale her own burning hair as he cut it off my head. Tokata says her parents told her that she was possessed and that if she contacted Miller again, she'd die. I felt deeply uncared for and deeply unsafe there, she said, calling those weeks some of the worst of her life. Jumping Eagle told Insider that Tokata was free to come and go while on the reservation, that her hair wasn't cut during this time, and that no one said she was possessed. After several weeks, Tokata made a plan to travel to New York City to work on music with her friend her parents trusted. Instead, she went to meet Miller. In spring 2022, Miller became even more controlling of Tokata, said Oliver Ignatius, a longtime music collaborator of Miller's. In March, the actor and the 18-year-old traveled to Hawaii. Ignatius, who met the pair there and spent a week working with them on music, said Miller confiscated Tokata's phone for her safety while on the island and pressured Tokata to change her name to Gibson, which happened to be a nickname of her family dog, Tokata's mother said. Tokata was very clear with me, Ignatius said. She said, I love going by the name Tokata, and I think it's a beautiful name. And Ezra said, no, no, no. You're going by Gibson now. Tokata's only reaction was a deflated silence, Ignatius said. Tokata, who is non-binary and uses she, they pronouns, told Insider that she goes by both Tokata and Gibson and came up with Gibson herself. Ignatius said that when Miller and Tokata returned to Vermont in May, the actor's mistreatment of Tokata continued. He said Miller hid Tokata's phone from her and at one point screamed obscenities at Tokata for wearing makeup. He recalled Miller saying, "What the F are you doing? Putting on this effing clown paint." Tokata said that she was never screamed at. That was queer dialogue about a badly applied rouge on her part, which I appreciate it. She said, I think the fact that a catty comment made by a queer person about makeup is being considered abusive is actually quite homophobic rhetoric. On another occasion, Miller drove to Okata, a Vermont church that Ignatius and his wife were renovating. Ignatius said Miller sloppily kissed Okata goodbye, looming very tall over her in the church doorway. Ignatius said that they paused their kiss, and Miller told Tokata, no abuse without love. Tokata said that she and Miller never kissed, and Miller didn't say those words. Ignatius said that seeing what he described as Miller's verbally abusive treatment of 18-year-old was the final straw in their friendship and professional collaboration. I was misled by an extremely manipulative actor, he said. At the beginning of June, Iron Eyes and Jumping Eagle filed additional legal documents meant to keep Miller away from their daughter. On June 7th, the tribal court said it was unable to locate or serve Miller and ordered them to appear in person on July 12th. That day, the judge closed the case to the public, and that might be the reason that why we haven't really heard any updates after that. In February, a few days after Tokata's LSD incident, Miller visited a small town in Massachusetts. There, they met a mother and her child, who was 11 at the time, and who identifies as non-binary. The mother was friendly with her downstairs neighbor, who was in a band with Sutter's, Miller's traveling companion. On the evening of February the 2nd, the group gathered around a table in the neighbor's apartment. The mother, who asked to remain anonymous to protect her child, told Insider the actor showed an inappropriate interest in her 11-year-old. She said Miller complimented the child's style and maturity level and asked whether they were interested in starting a clothing line together. Miller also offered to pay for the child to attend design school. Again, flowering people with gifts. I want to invest in your future. I want to make you somebody, the now 12-year-old recalled Miller telling them. They added that they were really uncomfortable because I'm somebody who doesn't like talking to new people, but said Miller was pushing and pushing me to talk. They said Miller also asked for their Instagram handle. That evening, Miller erupted at the child's mother several times. She said at one point the mother, who dresses in an alternative goth style, joked that she always looked like a vampire. She said Miller started yelling, "Do you want to drink my blood?" and pulled down the collar of their shirt, exposing their jugular. Miller blew up again when the mother used the word tribe to refer to her friends, screaming that she was racist and accused her of cultural appropriation. She said she also recalled Miller saying that the child was a mystical being who was more powerful than their mother and who would be lucky to have Ezra guide and protect them. Oof. The next day, the mother encountered Miller at a local music venue, and they apologized for their outbursts, she said. In April, Miller visited the local music venue again. By this time, both the mother and the child heard about Miller's arrest in Hawaii and said that they felt weary of the actor. The now 12-year-old said that the venue Miller pressured them into sharing their phone number. Miller again asked the child to stay at the farm, offered to buy them horses, and brought up the idea of paying for design school. The 12-year-old said part of them wanted to believe Miller. I did want it to happen. It sounded perfect, they said, but it was also just very wary and uncomfortable and didn't feel safe. The child saw Miller on June 4th when Miller showed up at their apartment building dressed in a cowboy hat and boots, asking to buy horses for the 12-year-old. It was 4 days before TMZ broke the news that Tokata's parents were seeking protective order. On June 15th, the 12-year-old's mother was granted temporary harassment protection order against Miller. She said she'd reached out to Tokata's parents and decided to speak with the media to bring attention to the situation. It's about protecting children and bringing light to what's really happening, she said. Over the past year, Miller has continued to draw impressionable young people into their orbit. One is a 24-year-old fashion designer and yoga teacher named Rosie Derquile, who has been traveling with Miller and Tokata on and off for the past several months. Ignatius said Miller verbally attacked Derquile in March on the beach in Hawaii. Miller gave Derkel a feather, which she put in her hair. Ignatius said that this incensed Miller, who accused Derkel of appropriating Native American culture. In an email to Insider, Derkel said her conversation with Miller was private, and Ignatius retelling it was drastically over-exaggerated. Derkel also said the relationship with Ezra has proved time and time again what a caring, compassionate, and supportive person they are, adding Ezra has done nothing other than try to protect people who's close to them. The onslaught of press and defamation, this has been to their own detriment and has been done willingly in order to protect others. Miller is also said to be housing a woman named Ana Rosa, who has been living on their farm with her 3 children, all under 5, since mid-April. The children's father told Rolling Stone that Ana Rosa brought the children to Vermont without his permission. Someone who visited the farm this spring said that the rifles and pistols were strewn around the house and that they were heavy marijuana use without proper ventilation. On one occasion, the visitor said that she saw Miller blow marijuana smoke in the baby's face and use their arm to waft more smoke in the baby's direction. In a since deleted Instagram video on June 16, Ana Rosa calls Miller an angel and said that they had saved my life. She didn't respond to requests for comment. The allegation against Miller came out at a tumultuous time for Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Parent company, whose leadership was reshuffled after the completion of merger with Discovery nearly 4 months ago. Insiders have begun speculating that Zaslav might pull the plug on the actor's starring role in The Flash, which is said to have a budget of $100 million. There's no winning in this from Warner Bros. A studio source recently told Deadline this is an inherited problem for Zaslav. And you know what? At the end of the day, I would not be surprised if they pulled the plug on The Flash. At this point, it seems like everything with Ezra Miller is just bad news. And since they already shelved Batgirl, I can see them shelving The Flash next. But what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you're new here, please be sure to smash the like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you next time. Bye.